Join us and unwind with a good book. Welcome to Relaxing Reads.
Hi, I'm Deb in Halifax.
Hey, it's Simone in Vancouver.
Hi, it's Tanya in Edmonton.
Simone, how are you feeling?
Yeah, what did you drink or what?
Yeah, I recently got really sick from drinking the Silk almond coconut milk, the one that's been making all the news with the recall. Woke up in the morning and I was like, I'm going to make myself a smoothie. And it was the almond coconut milk with the protein, put it in with a banana, drank it. And then that evening, I had the worst abdominal pains. I've never felt like this. And I've gone through childbirth and I was like, what is happening to my body that it hurts this much? And I was in a meeting. It was like an evening meeting and I had to just get out of there really fast because I just was in so much pain. And I was like, hey guys, I got to go pick my son up from baseball, even though I didn't. But I was like, I need out of here. And I went home. I just laid down and my husband's like, what did you eat today? And I was like, nothing that you guys didn't eat. I didn't get any takeout or fast food or anything. So I was like, I didn't eat anything bad today. I couldn't place it. And then that night, it just got worse. And so I was going to go to the hospital, but I looked up the ER wait times because the website, and it was like an 11-hour wait. And I was like, well, I'm not going to go sit there in this much pain. I'd rather just, sit at home and then go to the doctor in the morning. And as I was getting up in the morning, after I barely slept all night, my husband was about to go to the gym and then he walks into the room holding the carton and he goes, hey, you should probably throw this out. He goes, I just saw on the news there's a recall for it. I was like, what? And then right away it triggered what it was because I had only had it that morning, but I didn't think that could have been a culprit. You always think about did I touch meat to something? What did I do? Yeah. Right? I looked it up and yeah, that's what it was. And as soon as I posted on my social media saying, I don't know what was wrong with me, this was it. I had 4 or 5 people message me back saying they experienced something similar. And Deb, you had mentioned that this is these plant-based milks are more susceptible to this.
Yeah, apparently they are. So it's something to consider, I guess. I mean, if you're into, and that's unfortunate because a lot of people have allergies, and their stomach can't handle the regular dairy. So it's nice to have alternatives. And now if I don't know if it's in the processing, what happens to it, but there's so many things that really, throw our systems.
I started drinking oat milk just because I drink a lot of coffee and I don't like almond milk because coffee and almonds don't go together for me. And so I've been doing that, but I get annoyed because the packaging of it, I don't use oat milk for anything else other than my coffee. And I just have a little bit, but it says, once it's opened, consume within
7 days, right?
7 days. And it doesn't matter what the expiry date is, right? Yeah, it'll stay there forever until you open it. So I find I just flushed a lot of it down the sink because I don't drink it. Right?
Yeah.
I don't drink enough of it in a week to get through it. And I'm like, why can't they make little... But yeah, I
juice box sized cartons.
Yeah, well, you can buy the little Tetra packs, juice box and 3-packs. But it's 5 something, you know, for which I guess I do that and I bring it to work. I mean... I only do it because sometimes I have sensitivities to milk, and sometimes I think but more about maybe I shouldn't be drinking milk, Yeah. So I sort of made the choice of doing that. And I actually do feel better not having milk in my coffee.
I do too. You never notice it when you're younger. You just kind of have it and drink it. And now it's I will skip the dairy. I will not have milk. I will sometimes have yogurt. I'm still not even a big yogurt person, but I will have the cheese. If there is cheese around me, so if I'm picking and choosing what form of dairy I'm having, it's going to be the cheese.
And ice cream. Don't forget.
Yes.
Oh, I know.
Sorry, I love ice cream. Sometimes
me too. But is it really dairy?
Yeah,
there's another question.
And then there's
you get the craft stuff and pay a huge amount of money for it. We have Kind here, which is awesome. We have Made by Marcus, all these little small batch ice cream places. Oh my! Ooh. One is 4 blocks from my place. I can just
and then there's the conversation around we don't buy a lot of ice cream for us because we will just eat it. We'll often buy stuff for the kids. And then my husband went to Costco and he bought those Haagen-Dazs bars. And then I was like, oh, these are good. And there's only 9 in there, so we put them in the downstairs freezer where the kids don't go. And I'm like, because if they start eating them, they'll be gone tomorrow. And I'm like, whereas we like to kind of save it for the weekend or whatever. And so we just go down there. And then sometimes you have that parent guilt. We're like, oh my God, we're eating this ice cream secretly when they go to bed. But I'm like, at the same time, they've had enough treats today. They've gotten their fair share. This is mommy daddy treats.
I think you deserve like a mommy daddy cupboard with snacks or freezer, fridge, whatever. And it's off, to the kids. It's just for you.
And I always say sometimes, I'm like, it's a part of adulting, right? Like we can regulate what we eat when we eat it. I'm like, we put a box of cookies in the pantry. Like those cookies are gone in 3 days. I'm like, you guys, you can't regulate how much to eat and not to eat. And sometimes we can't either. But still, it's like, you have the little secret stash and then it's going to be there for when you want it.
Yeah. And how wonderful.
Like when Atlas baked those cookies, you guys, were you like,
Atlas, yes.
When he baked the cookies?
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Then I wanted cookies.
I know.
It's like, oh.
Well, good to be back here with you after another great read. I'm so happy we chose this one to lead with this month.
Yes. So our latest read, It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. It takes us through Lily Bloom's emotional journey as she navigates relationships with Atlas, her childhood love, and Ryle, her husband, who has shown abusive behavior. The story explores the complexities of Lily's connections, her inner turmoil, and her determination to break the cycle of abuse for her daughter's well-being. And as she confronts the harsh realities of her marriage, she resolves to prioritize her child's safety and embark on a path of healing, ultimately seeking the nurturing love that she deserves. And this novel was inspired by the author's own parents and her upbringing. And it has spent 157 weeks now on the New York Times paperback trade fiction bestseller list. So it is one of those tough stories to share, but it's a very important one as well. And I found myself very emotional at different points. And I guess it was because of this particular story and the characters, but also I think thinking about other women, other families who've gone through something similar. How about you ladies?
Yeah, I mean, this book has been everywhere. I've seen so many friends, like I think it was more like last year into this year, posting about reading it. And I was always curious about it, but I was like, I don't know what that's really about. And I had no idea this is what it was about. I just saw it everywhere. And then when we decided, this was going to be our book, because of course the movie comes out, I was like, let's see what this is about. And it was really captivating. And I had no idea this was about the author's family. I didn't go to the back of the book. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I like to read the author notes and this and that first, but this time I didn't. And I was shocked to learn all that. And I think it's an important topic. To be discussed. And it's so interesting, the way it was put together and how it all ended. And it you're right, Deb, it just makes you feel really emotional while on this journey of reading it.
Yeah. And I think, Simone, I was like you, I sort of knew about these books or this book, but I didn't, it was not on my radar. Like, I don't know what I thought it was. I guess I just thought it was a summer romance, I thought it was pretty light. And I went, yeah, you know what, I'll get to that. But it's interesting because I was visiting at a friend, like, gosh, maybe I think around Christmas. And she's an avid reader and she gave me 3 books. And so those 3 books were It Ends With Us, It Starts With Us, and then I think September or something. And she's like, you got to read these books. These are great. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess I will. And so when we decided to read this book, I was like, wow. So I went and dug through all my stuff and grabbed the book, and now I want to read more. But I didn't know that the subject matter was so intense, and I didn't know that it was about the author's childhood. And I'm reading this book, and I felt exactly like what the author through Lily was talking about, which is, it is so easy for someone who is not in an abusive relationship to say, get out already. What are you waiting for? Like, what are you waiting for? It's plain as day. It's written on the chalkboard. Just leave him. And it isn't that simple when you love somebody like that. Mm-hmm. And I learned that through this book, that it's an outsider looking in has no idea what's going on in a relationship. And I don't personally know an abusive relationship. I know that my sister went through a bad relationship of just the guy being an asshole. And I remember having conversations with her saying, you know, you have your son now. Can you just leave? Like, what are you saying to your son by having that relationship, you know, by keeping in the relationship? It's telling him, it's making him learn all the wrong stuff, you know, and she eventually did leave, but it was quite a few years. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm looking in going, leave already. And it's complicated. And that's what this book really delves into, is how complicated relationships are between two people. Yeah. It was very emotional to read, and it was very I found myself challenging my own judgments, I guess, on relationships that I kind of go, oh, this is not a good relationship. And I think differently now after reading this book.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we say. It's so easy to just say, oh, why is that person doing that? Why can't this person do this? Even with the situation with Atlas and his background, and people who treat homeless people or look down on people who are down on their luck. Well, everyone has a story. Everyone has a situation. And sometimes you can have those moments where you feel like you're passing judgment, but then you really have to look back and be like, okay, you know, like this, you don't know someone's story or what they're going through, and you don't know your story, and your story could change within a day. So really, it's like you don't know what life is going to throw at you. One moment you could think life is perfect, the next moment it could crumble apart. And that's the interesting thing in this book, when it's like everything can change in 2 minutes. Everything can change in 15 minutes. Everything can change. We just don't know what the future holds for us. And that is the scary part too, is when things are humming along, you just don't know what could happen. And again, someone's situation, like you look at the characters, obviously 3 main characters, Lily, Ryle, and Atlas, and look how Atlas's life turned around, right? Mm-hmm. So you shouldn't really judge.
I love her as a child being able to connect with this young boy as well. No, I don't know many people who would have been able to create that relationship, and not that people aren't kind as children, because we know they certainly are, and offer up a lot of love as well. But the way she just stepped in right away to take care of this person was just, warmed my heart so much, and that she found an even bigger connection once she got to know him.
Yeah.
And I love how I love how Lily, you know, as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old girl, how she's putting her thoughts in her journal, and her journaling, is writing letters to Ellen DeGeneres. She never ever sends them, but she writes the letters, right? And I'm like, I mean, I tried to keep a journal and I lost interest, but maybe if I was writing, fake writing to somebody as if they're my confidant, you know, I could get a lot of stuff out. So I think it was a really cool how Colleen, the author, kind of wrote Lily at that age, and we got to know her and what was going on between her and Atlas, and what was going on between her parents, and everything in this kind of beautiful letter to herself, but letter to Ellen. And I really liked reading that part of the book, because I really got into it, and I started thinking about love. And you know, love is so different at our stages of our lives, right? There's that love that you have as a kid, you know, love that you have as a teenager, adolescence, all that kind of stuff. Younger love, 23, 24, 25, where you don't really know anything, but you think you know everything. And then you get older, and you find, you know, a different kind of love that is more mature, and all of them have a place in our lives. And I kind of relived a little bit of you know, my 16, 17-year-old self through Lily. I never knew a homeless guy, but you know, I had a lot of crushes on guys. And I just loved sort of that, you know, I loved that whole relationship between her and Atlas. Yeah.
Did either of you keep a diary? Yeah, it's interesting it was to Ellen, because most of us would just be like, Dear Diary, and you're just speaking to this like your book, which is a character. But Yeah, I kept like a journal. I still have it, and this was when I had my first crush, and I would write poems about him and write things, and it's just there. Like when I go to my mom's house, it's still there, and like sometimes I'll flip through it because you forget. I think the stuff she went through life. Her experience was very traumatic for Lily, so maybe sometimes you block things out, or you have a select memory of things. But if you've written it down, going back and reading it really takes you back to that younger person. Like I wrote those things when I was 14. I'm almost 44. So it takes you back 30 years where you're like, little Simone was having all these big feelings that she didn't know what to do with at that time. Whereas now, like you say, Tanya, you get older, you're more sure of yourself, expressing yourself, your feelings. We're getting to the age where we have no filter and we're not scared to hold back and say what we want to say. Whereas then you're like, I don't know what to do. I'm keeping it all inside. So the journal is kind of like the outlet, right?
Yeah. I did have a journal when I was quite young. I guess I probably would have been 11 or 12, and it had the little lock and key. And of course, you could easily open it without a key. And I kept it in my room. And I remember my brother would, try to open it and read through it. Not that I had anything very exciting. But I also kept it was in high school, and I recently came across it. It was just a daily calendar with, events going on in school, trips, and all kinds of stuff related to, I guess it was grade 11 or grade 12. And I had little hearts beside a couple of names. I'm like, that was such a great day. Oh, I can't wait for the dance. And there was like a weekend trip here and there with friends. And I kind of forgot about some of those events or moments. Not that they were really major, and not that I actually met up with this boy to have a dance and talk and whatever. But just the fact that I kept their name and their initials. Beyond that, there wasn't a lot of exciting things happening in high school, but I thought there were a couple of cutesy things. I didn't pour myself out like I thought maybe I did, but it is interesting to come across them.
But like I say, I look at that journal and sometimes I'm like, maybe I just get rid of it. Like, what's the point of it? Like, what if something happens to me, like who's going to read it and who's going to go through it? Is it my time to just destroy it now? And that was why in the book, when you see that situation play out where Ryle, I always want to call him Kyle because Ryle is such a unique name. Yes. Ryle reads her journal, and it's such an invasion of privacy. And that's one thing I couldn't understand. It's like, he had the past trauma, what he went through with his sibling, but what was hurting him and making him feel so insecure about their relationship? Like, was there a past woman that he was, because it's like anything that he thought she would be cheating or doing anything, it triggered him. But we never got to really learn why he's triggered from that, as opposed to, the trigger with your sibling is a different kind of a trauma. But then it's like you're freaking out about all these things with her. So it could have been maybe around the loss. Like he just doesn't want to lose her because he's lost someone important and he loses it. But it was scary. I was hoping the novel wasn't going to go that direction, but then it's exactly where it took us. And
I was reading, I actually pronounced his name as Riley in my head, and I don't know why, because I didn't like Ryle. But anyway, so Ryle, so many parts, like getting up to the middle of the book, I'm like, I just don't like this guy. He's possessive. What is this manipulative behavior? Why is he so controlling? Because that just gives me red flags all over the place. And I'm just, so I didn't like it. And I'm like, what's going to happen at the end of this book? Is he going to turn around? And then you find out that he had this traumatic experience, and he's been in therapy since he was 6 years old. But then rewrite Simone, like what really made him tick? Why did he have this blinding anger where he almost blacks out and doesn't even know what he's done? There's a part in the book where he says to Lily, he says, I'm supposed to be the one who will protect you from the monsters. I'm not supposed to be one. So he knows he's a monster, but yet he can't help it. And then I think, okay, well, she has to leave clearly. But then I go, well, what about Ryle? Like, where is he going to end up? Because if he can never have a relationship because of this because of his behavior. What is his future going to be like? I don't know. I didn't like him from the beginning, and then the whole oven scene with oh my God.
Yeah, and there's something about being confident, but he was coming in being like, do you want a one-night stand? Can we just hook up? And I was like, that is not an opening line. Like, lead with being sexy, and like maybe it might happen for you if you're just attractive and you can come across that way. But he was just so like abrupt. And then I was like, that's not attractive at all. Like, he just wants to, like, hook up with her one time and not talk to her again. It was nice that he was kind of coming to and growing to learn to have a relationship and all this. But then, he ruined it all. And it's like when you get to the end of the book and there's that moment at the hospital and he realizes, like, he's got to let her go because like, how many chances do you give? And it was like that one line in the book that said, people spend so much time wondering why the women don't leave. Where are all the people who wonder why the men are even abusive? Like, where is the blame needs to be placed there? Like, where do we undo that?
Yeah, I have to admit that while I didn't like his character, he did remind me of a lot of guys, a lot of men that I have been attracted to, with the arrogance, I later found out it was arrogance and not confidence, and the controlling, the narcissist that was in them that came out later in full force. So I found him charming at times, and I'm like, oh my God, that was the guy that I was attracted to at times when I was in my 20s and 30s. And they bring on that charm. They make everything like, oh, well, this was going on at the time, or I'm having a moment, but I offer you this side of me, which is pretty wonderful, isn't it? And I think that's part of what happened with Lily. She got caught up in it. She did fall for him, and you can't help where your heart leads you. So I think that's what happens to so many women. And the narcissist, I don't know if you can heal someone who is a narcissist.
Yeah, I don't think so. And, it was so interesting that she knew he was a neurosurgeon. And, but it was funny when she'd be like, we can live like this. We can afford this. And I'm like, clearly she's not there for the money. Like, you would think you just married a doctor. Life is going to be good. But that part of it I liked. Like, she was just into him. She wasn't into the stuff or any of that. She still wanted her own life and her flower shop and, and all of that. And that was a beautiful side of it. But her journey, it was really nice to follow her kind of arc in the book with where she starts, and then she's going through this with Ryle, and there are some women who think, I can change him, I can change this man. Oh yeah, and so I think a part of her, in the beginning was starting to make those excuses, but then you get to a part of your life where it is about your child or something, and you cannot put that at risk. And I even really liked how beautiful it was in those moments with her mother in the end, just kind of having that conversation, because sometimes you can go back and look at some of the decisions your parents have made or their parents have made, and we don't quite understand things. And it was like, when you go back to even 50 years ago when divorce was so shunned upon and people just stayed together for the kids or just stayed together and they were just miserable. And now at least we kind of have a generation where people are like, no, it's okay to leave. It's okay to find happiness. It's not the end of the world, and we won't be as judged. It's okay to not have kids if you don't want kids. Like, we're a little bit more open. So it was like, at least she got to kind of break out from, a situation that maybe her mom was just not able to, again, financially leave, not strong enough to leave, because what do you do in those situations? So it was nice that they kind of came into that moment and they supported each other,
Yeah.
And I think, Simone, what you mentioned a little earlier is, everybody talks about, why doesn't she leave? Why doesn't she leave? And nobody says, why doesn't he quit hitting her? So that's something we need to wrap our heads around, I think, as a society, as people who look at relationships, why is it always up to the woman or whomever is being abused, right? Why do we never look at the abuser and go, hey, what's up with you, right? It's not okay. It's not okay. But I don't know, maybe they just can't fix themselves. Like, there isn't anything they can do about it. I don't know. And the person, I guess, has to leave in the end. But nobody ever talks about that. And that's one thing the author wrote about quite a bit in the book. She said it a few times throughout the book. Why is it just the women that we're concerned about, or the other person who's being abused, why don't they leave? And it's never, why does that person do that?
Yeah, and it was brought up a couple times that they're, the people aren't bad. These people just do bad things. And, often it's like you look at stories or you hear stories, and a lot of it's rooted in generational trauma. It's how they grew up and how they grew up and how they grew up. And that's why with this, it ends with us. It ends. We're breaking the pattern. We're breaking the cycle. And, when that cycle is broken, only from there can there be like true healing and, moving on. But for people, you wonder how certain people are a certain way, and it's like they are probably a product of their upbringing, and they were not taught to regulate their emotions or how to express themselves in a way that wasn't destructive and hitting. That's what they kind of did, and it's like then that it's like people can change, but you really have to work on yourself. Like, none of us are perfect. We all have flaws, but it's like until you go and get the help and understand what's triggering you and how to break those triggers, it's a lot of work to put into yourself. And sometimes people don't want to do that. They just are stuck in their ways. This is how it's going to be. But then you choose the life you choose, and you might just end up alone. So,
yeah, even when you are presented with what life could be in a really good form, like Ryle was, you just can't help yourself, or you don't have it in you to think that you deserve a little bit of goodness, even though you've gone the wrong route. Before he got to that point, he just, I guess, didn't think that he deserved what could be.
Yeah.
And so just decided to stay in that lane.
And I liked how Colleen wrote, obviously it was Lily's parents that was sort of the focus of how she thinks about relationships, and then she ends up having an abusive relationship herself, and then we have this beautiful relationship between Ryle's sister Alyssa and her husband Marshall.
Yes.
Who I love both of them. I just Alyssa comes out with some of the best one-liners. I don't have any at the top of my mind right now, but she is an absolute gem, and she ends up becoming Lily's best friend. And I thought she was absolutely delightful, this character.
Yeah,
yeah, and I love
she's like a ride or die like girlfriend.
Yes, and what I loved about her too is sometimes there are people that will always take your sibling side or your blood side because they will not look past it. But for so many moments, she was like, I get it. As his sister, I'm saying this, but as your best friend, you got to leave. And that's what was beautiful about it, is she was willing to, not be like, well, if you're not with my brother, then you're not with me. It ends here. It was like, no, like we're still going to be in each other's lives. We're going to raise our beautiful daughters together and be besties. Their friendship was really beautiful. And I love that she just worked for fun because she had people for everything in her lavish life. And at the end, when she's like, I just want to make love to my rich husband, it's like, must be nice.
And the people, she's got people for everything. So
yeah.
So I loved, their relationship, and that relationship was actually a really positive relationship. And so one funny part, the onesies.
Yeah.
So there's a part where we meet in the very beginning. We meet Marshall, and that's Alyssa's husband, and he's at a Boston bar and wearing a onesie because when the Bruins are playing, they get free beer at this bar. And Ryle ends up in a onesie. They all end up in onesies and go to a bar, which is a pretty light scene. And I thought, this is hysterical. I can just see these people in onesies drinking beer in Boston. I want to do that.
I know. Yeah. And it was funny because it's like, don't you guys have money to like not have to worry about free beer? Like you can pay for the beer, but it was just the experience, right? And
the game.
Yeah. And those were beautiful. The moments they had with the four of them having dinners together and all that was beautiful. But then again, it comes down to, will this be a great co-parenting situation, and will he turn around? And that's why it's neat that there kind of is a second part to this with It Starts With Us. And that I think follows the journey of her with Atlas now and navigating the co-parenting. There was that moment where he came in and he's like, I have to tell you something. And I was like, oh my God, did he do something to Atlas? Like I panicked. I just worried, when he said, and she was like, I don't know what he's trying to tell me here. And I was like, oh no, what did he do? What did he do? And it was just like, that's when he went into his truths about the childhood stuff. But yeah, so this world with Atlas is going to be this new world. Now that he doesn't have Cassie, The made-up girlfriend.
Yeah.
Atlas and his piercing blue eyes.
So this is obviously turning into a movie that comes out with Blake Lively as Lily. I watched the trailer today, and
Who's Atlas? These characters are so well written.
So it was, Blake Lively as Lily, Justin Baldoni as Ryle Kincaid, and Brandon Sklenar is Atlas Corrigan. And he was in The Big Ugly 1923. So that's what Atlas was in. The one who plays Ryle has been in Jane the Virgin, 5 Feet Apart.
Jane, yeah.
Yeah, Sweet Light of Zach and Cody. Yeah. So that's what he is. So when I was watching the trailer, I wasn't that attracted to the Ryle in the film. I mean, he had a great body and he looked good in the scrubs. But when I saw Atlas and the casting for Atlas, I was like, okay, I'm a little more Team Atlas for this one. So
okay, good. I need Atlas to be hot. I need Atlas to be like what I envision in my head.
He's just got
Ryle,
like
I'm
sweet
whatever,
charm.
but
I know. Like the passion with Ryle and the love story there is so amazing. They have those magical moments, but it's like so sweet and innocent and pure with Atlas. And like they always say, you should marry your best friend. And they had that best friend foundation. It wasn't based on just a passion and like that connection. It was deep. So the movie is coming out August 11th. Really looking forward to catching that. And I really think we should add It Starts With Us to the list, because then we will get a little bit more on the Atlas and Lily relationship.
Lily romance.
Yeah.
I think we've got to do that.
But I'm so glad we read this because, like Tanya said, I saw it everywhere and I was like, I don't think it's going to be something I'm into. Is this just like a cheesy, sappy romance like that everyone's getting into? But it was not. It was really good.
I think it will be an eye-opener for a lot of people who might think about reading it. And we, of course, recommend that you do.
Yeah. So thanks again for listening to our Relaxing Reads podcast, and we will be back again with you soon. Have a great day.
Thank you for kicking back and relaxing with us. We hope you'll join us again on Relaxing Reads.